Hello and welcome back to the Love Machine podcast. Now this week I am delighted to be joined again with the wonderful, the amazing Jade Birkin, who will be teaching me and sharing some lovely stories about her experience running singles events and singles parties. And later on I'll be giving you 6 top tips to make the most of these events. I've been running them for about 15 years and I have hosted hundreds and hundreds. Now Jade, you've taken part in both the events and you've run them for many years, so welcome back first of all.
Thanks so much for having me again, James.
Absolute pleasure. I had great feedback about you last time on my
Oh,
podcast.
thank you.
I couldn't wait to get you back. Now, I know you told me in an email before, just to get started with this, you had a date recently, and how did that go?
Yeah, the date went great. It was a coffee date. We went for a walk around the park, get caught in the rain a little bit, but apart from that, it was a very pleasant first date.
Wonderful. And how long was the date?
3 hours, maybe.
3 hours. So the last time you spoke to me, you had a 5-hour date and a 3-hour date. These aren't dates, these are mini breaks. So, okay, if you had a nice date, and will you see him again?
Well, we had something booked in, but then the day after the date, he'd been out with the boys and he called me and he was really drunk and I didn't understand a word he was saying.
Oh, no.
And I was like, listen, I can't make you out. So, and it's late. I'm going to go to bed. Good night. I went to my bed on a Friday, woke up and I had 27 missed calls.
27?
Yeah, my mother has never called me 27 times.
I think my mum has, probably. Okay, so he's a bit nutty, right? And will you see him again?
I think I'm in the process of writing a thanks, but no message. However, I have a feeling he's somebody who will keep contacting me, which we'll see.
That tends to happen. If someone becomes a bit obsessive, getting rid of them can be very, very hard. I might do a future podcast on that subject.
Okay, great. I have lots of stories then.
Yeah, and me too, but from my dating experience and my coaching experience. Sometimes people don't know what the limits are, unfortunately. But speaking of which, let's go on to the topic of today, which is how to make the most of how to get some dates and be successful when it comes to singles parties and singles events. Now, there's different types of events out there. I'm sure people know. There's speed dating. Can you just briefly explain what speed dating is for those that don't know?
So a speed dating event is you come along and you're allocated a number, and then there'll be probably about 10 to 18 other potential dates in the opposite sex there for you, and you will get 4 minutes with each date. And after the 4 minutes, the host, which is me, I'll ring the bell and you will move on. And then the next day you make your choices online of who you would like to speak to again.
So you make the choices on a checklist and you fill in, I want to see so-and-so, so-and-so. And if you get a match, I believe then you get an email and you can contact them directly and arrange another date. Is that right?
That's exactly what happens. Details are only swapped if 2 people match. So if somebody likes you but you haven't liked them back, they wouldn't get your details. It has to be mutual agreement.
Sometimes you do get friends matches as an option. Do you have that on your forms?
We don't, but we have been asked to. So that is definitely something that we want to be able to provide, because I'll go into it a little bit more later, but that is a friendship thing to singles nights as well, a lot of the time.
Okay. Now, as well as speed dating, other singles events people can go to. You can go to singles balls, you can go to padlock parties, and what these tend to be, they're larger crowds, maybe 100 people plus, and they might have an optional little room somewhere that has speed dating. So speed dating is usually a key part to this. And beyond this, there's cookery singles events, there's wine tastings, there's salsa dancing. There's a whole variety of options. But today we're going to be focusing on the speed dating and singles party side of things. Otherwise, we'd be here for hours talking about how to do that. So we're going to focus on this. Maybe you've tried speed dating before. Maybe you've done it once or twice. Or maybe you're an old hand at this and you still want to learn some new tips to make it work. So, Jade, how did you get started with the singles events?
So I actually went to a speed dating night myself about 2 years ago, and I was actually a lot younger. Not like I was in the age group that it was, but most of the other daters there were a fair bit older than me, and I as somebody who just observes people anyway, I just sat there watching everybody. I decided not to have alcohol so I could really take it in. And I was watching the host go round and be charming and talk to everyone and make everyone feel brilliant. And as the evening went on, I saw how everybody changed from being quite stiff and nervous to really relaxing, and it was just full of smiles. And at the end of the evening, I thought, there was no one for me, but this is a brilliant concept. So I actually emailed the company the next day just to say how much I really enjoyed it. And because I wasn't making any matches, don't think it was anything to do with the company. And I thought the host was great as well. And then I just blatantly asked, are you needing another host? I have PR experience, I have events experience, etc. So I had an interview, and that's how I then started hosting.
Thanks for sharing that. Funnily enough, I started out at these events in a very similar way. I was out for drinks with a friend in London, and she said to me, I'm going to go off and work later on. And she was working at a big singles event that was called Chemistry. And this is about 15 years ago now. And these chemistry events used to have 1,000+ people at them. They had so much marketing. And eventually they ran out of people that were interested to do this on that scale. And they went bust quite quickly. But they were good events, 1,000 people. They had a celebrity speed dating room with people out of Blue pop group on there. I think Atomic Kitten were there. And she was working there. And I noticed that everyone was drawn to her. And all these hot singles were going up to her, talking to her. So what I did, I asked them where the T-shirts were, put on a T-shirt, pretending I was working there, and the rest is history. And after that, I had a thoroughly wonderful time, all these girls giving me their numbers, and so next day I emailed several companies saying, can I come and work for you? I never did work for Chemistry, but I almost did. But I ended up working for 10 other companies around the time. And that's how my journey began, which is why I think it's fascinating that's what you've been doing. And now you're really enjoying running these events for other people. And I think you want to do your own event at some point too. Is that right?
Yeah, I just launched my own business at the start of 2020, but unfortunately due to the pandemic, which I don't really want to talk about, but that did put a bit of a delay. However, I've got some really exciting ideas happening. And in Glasgow, there's not very much, and especially for other communities, for example, the LGBT community, there's not really singles events for them. So I want to do something for them as well.
Marvellous. Now, what advice would you give somebody who is thinking about attending an event for the first time? Because people are always going to be nervous and they make excuses not to do this. So what would you think? What advice would you give them?
Just do it. Of course, you're going to be nervous. Nerves are completely natural, and everybody who's there will be nervous, even if they've done it before. What I always say to people is, events like singles events and speed dating, people only go to that if they're really serious about meeting someone. They want to meet somebody in person. They want to be serious, and it's not going to be somebody there who's going to make fun of you. You know, it's a relaxed environment. It's a safe environment. There's an alcohol limit, so you don't need to worry about anything like that. And everybody will always be respectful to you there, and your host is there to look after you too. So please don't worry about people being too drunk or anybody laughing at you or anyone being rude. That's just not allowed. That's not the type of person that goes to these events. My other advice would be enjoy it. You know, keep an open mind.
I agree completely. You've got to go into this thinking, maybe I'm not going to meet the love of my life the first time round, but I'm going to make some interesting contacts and some interesting new friends. And I know you mentioned about it's a very friendly thing and a big social circle. And I would agree with you, especially the over 40s events that I run. People don't go to them always just to make a match. They go there as a community just to see old friends and to catch up with them once a month. And that's an important thing to have right now. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And you know, there's two elements to this sort of friendship, and I like that you use the word community, because that's what I use as well, as the word community. And yeah, especially in the over 40s, I do have maybe, especially with the gentlemen, I've got a couple of regulars who come all the time, but that's now part of their social group. And so one thing I did notice with the speed dating nights, after the dating was over and a lot of people were coming to say bye to me, maybe ask me some questions about how it worked or if they missed someone's name, etc. And a lot of people were saying, I had a really good night. I didn't even meet somebody I wanted to date, but I've had a really good night. which got me thinking what I was just saying about it being with like-minded people, you're not the last single person. So what I started doing at the end of my speed dating nights is inviting everyone to stay for a drink. Yes, you could absolutely leave if you wanted to. However, if we all just sat together as a group, and I would sit there, and some people just wanted someone to talk to. So sometimes people might tell me, I've just got out of this relationship, or, I'm just so fed up dating with Tinder. But then the person next to them is like, me too, and they can just share that experience. There might be two single mums who are like, oh, we're both in that same position, and they've agreed to go for a drink at another time. It's really amazing to just watch how people connect because they're single, even if it's not in a romantic connection.
I agree. I love watching people at these events. And I can always tell who's going to hit it off before they even know. Little things you can do. If someone's having a conversation, you can notice who's making a real connection, who wants to escape. For example, if you look at their feet and their feet are pointing towards each other, they're probably having a good chat. If the feet are pointing away, they might want to escape and go out of the room as fast as possible. So with that in mind, I've got a few other questions to go a bit deeper into the process. What if you meet somebody and you find they're all very nice, but you don't want to be stuck with them the rest of the evening? How do you break free politely?
I would either, if you can, kind of make eye connection with the host. So a lot of the time I will always be watching people, and if somebody's kind of looking at me and not the person they're speaking to, I know that they want out. So as a host, I'll maybe go up and I might even suggest to go and speak to other people, or give them that chance to be, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. And if the other person, I can kind of guide them on. If somebody doesn't have the help of the host, I would politely either even just say, I'm going to go and get a top up, or I need a bathroom break, or just say, I was talking to someone earlier and we were interrupted. I need to go back and speak to them. And just don't worry about it. You will ruin your own night if you stay talking to one person, especially if that's not the right person.
That's absolutely right. So many people will stay in these conversations out of pure politeness. I had a client who did it and stayed with somebody for 4 hours out of politeness and didn't realise that she could just escape if she wanted to. And this is quite sad. She was a lovely lady. And 4 hours. And the next day, of course, he's texting her, can't wait to see her again, and couldn't understand why she wasn't keen. I do see this. Remember, it is your evening. You're there to meet lots of people. And you can say that to them. You can say, look, I promise myself as a challenge, I'm going to talk to as many people as possible. How about we catch up later and we can review how many people we've spoken to? So you make it into a challenge, or you say to them, is there anyone here that you like I can introduce you to? That makes it really obvious that you're not interested in them directly, but on the same point, you're also going to be helping them. So it's a polite way of escaping. How about the opposite now, Jay? What if you really, really like somebody and you can't wait to speak to them, but apart from the speed dating, they've been talking to somebody all night long and you can't get near them? How would you do that? Keeping in mind there's no greater regret than going home, not speaking to them, and wishing that you'd done that.
Now, I would just walk up and join the conversation, even with the other person still there. And I would read the situation a little bit. And if they both show interest in you as well, then that means that they're kind of maybe more speaking more mutually. I would probably go for that. Or I would go up and talk to the host, just say, I want to meet this person, because the host will have to make sure that people are talking to enough people and not just to one person.
Sometimes the host can be quite lazy, I've noticed. At some, not our companies, other companies that run these events. They don't have many staff there and they're looking a bit lost, or they talk to each other. But they're there to help you. So go up to them and ask them to do something. This is one of my top tips later on. I'll come into this in more detail. But the hosts are there for your benefit. They're not there for their benefit. They're there to introduce people and to make sure as many people mingle as possible. Let's go right back to the start of the process again, because for many people, like we said before, it's a nerve-wracking experience. You've walked into a room. What do you do? What's the first thing you should do at a speed dating event, let's say? What do you do? You've got yourself a drink. Then what should you do?
Then take a deep breath, shoulders back, and smile. Fake the confidence even if you don't have it. And approach the host first.
Okay, you approach them, and of course they'll get you seated and they'll explain to you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Do get a drink, and because you might not have a break for some time. Some companies don't even give you a break, depending on how many people are going to be there. So it might be your only chance until afterwards. Just one drink can act as a prop during the speed dating as well. So you're going to hold on to something rather than just stare at them the whole time. And
Yes.
remember that everyone's in the same situation. You're not going to fancy everyone you're looking around. What tends to happen, you'll sit down, look around the room, and maybe be attracted to one or two people, and the rest of you make a decision very, very quickly. They're not for me. But what you need to do is enjoy talking to everybody and practice your skills. I send lots of my single clients to speed dating and singles events as a way to build their confidence. If you're not really sure how to flirt, how to interact, it's a great way to do it because you can just practice on 15 people you're not going to really see again. And you know what? If someone doesn't tick you at the end of the night, you're never going to see them again. It doesn't really matter. There's no real rejection. Maybe they didn't tick anybody. A lot of people don't tick people. Having said that, I would say that men tend to tick a lot more matches than women do. Would you agree with that, Jade?
Yes, absolutely. There was actually one guy, lovely, lovely guy, and he'd been at one of the nights, and then I saw him again, and I was like, no way, like, was there any matches? Is it all a couple? And he's like, and he actually said to me, he went, I'm going to tell you something. My mate said, just tick everyone to see who ticks you back. And I did, and I shouldn't have done that. And I was like, because then I think he got messages from people he genuinely wasn't interested in. So he was like, I should only tick the ones that I really like. My advice with ticking though is, if there's somebody you go, well, I mean, the conversation was really good and they weren't unattractive. You might not got that immediate fireworks, but even if you just have that, I would say tick. Because even if it's only a couple of text messages and then you know for definite, but if you have that little bit of, then just go tick.
I would agree. I think tick as many people as you probably can. Give them another chance because in another situation you might be more attracted to them. And also, it's a good way of gauging your improvement levels. If you get 3 matches the first time and 7 the next, you're doing things better. The first time round, don't put the pressure on yourself. Enjoy it for what it is. If you're doing it for the practice, just tick a lot of people, but they don't have to match with you. But you can see what your success rate is. It's the best way of gauging that. And it's all about having fun, getting to know new people, and just enjoying the whole process. Having said that, some people are a bit clueless when it comes to singles events, and I've seen people make the biggest mistakes possible. I'll give you an example, and maybe Jade, you can give me some examples as well. I had one particular guy, he walked around with a list of questions, and he pulled this list out and he read them one off after another to the same questions to the same women. And these weren't fun, exciting questions. These are the most boring questions, because everyone asks boring questions, like where do you live? Where do you work? Why are you here? You've got to be more imaginative on that. Jay, what sort of mistakes have you seen people make?
Well, I've definitely seen that mistake. And I had one gentleman, and he has a beautiful notebook, and he pulled it out and he showed me all these questions. Now, one, it was too many questions for just a 4-minute slot, and some of them were really intense. So I just sort of pulled him aside and went, listen, I understand that these things are very, very important to you. There was a lot about religion, about children expectation. Let's save those ones for the first date. So I do say to people, have a couple of questions in your head. However, conversation flows more naturally than you expect. Other mistakes that I have seen would be alcohol levels. Have a drink before it, a drink or two during it, absolutely. However, don't arrive drunk. Don't do that. One thing that I have noticed doesn't really create success is when a lot of people come with a group of friends because they're too interested in each other rather than their dates. And I watch them and I can see them all looking at each other while they're sitting with their date. They're not paying the same attention. And I do think that kind of has a bit of a downfall in the whole purpose of what the night is about. I get that you might want somebody there for support, absolutely. However, I always try and separate people when they come together.
Sometimes people go for a meal with their friends before they come to the event. I've seen that a
Yeah.
lot. That's absolutely fine. But you're not there as a party to bring your friends along and have a big celebration. You're there to meet new people. And the bigger your group, the harder it will be for other people to come to approach you. So keep it quite small, and don't don't bring all your mates. Everyone's going to think this is really intimidating. I don't want to come and speak to them. You also mentioned about alcohol. Now, some people do like to have a few drinks before they turn up for a bit of Dutch courage. And I've seen that go very, very wrong.
Yeah.
Some people end up having sex in toilets. I've seen that in my time. That used to happen in the olden days. And also, remember a very nice gentleman I got on very well with, ended up coming to one of my events years ago. Got very, very drunk, a bit abusive to the other guests. And one of my hosts threw him out of the pub that we were using. And to cut a long story short, the drunk guest chased my 5'1" host down the road after him and threatening to kill him. And I had to go running after him to save him, took him out of it. Luckily, he liked me and respected me, and we managed to defuse the situation. But the police were called, and this guy ended up spending 6 months in jail because of what happened. And that's an absolute true story. I was interviewed by the police. But that's just a one-off. Don't let that put you off from attending singles events due to one idiot. And that's true of all dating. Don't let one idiot put you off, because you're going to meet a whole spectrum of different people when you go to any event, in the same way you meet all different people in the supermarket, in the tennis club, in the gym, anywhere you go. Anyone can come in. Of course, if someone's a bit rowdy, someone's a bit drunk, now the staff will throw them out and they won't allow them to meet you. But just laugh it off. If someone's a bit drunk, thank you, nice to talk to you, and then just move on. What can somebody do, Jade, to make themselves more memorable for the right reasons?
Smile, absolutely smile. I would encourage compliments. However, there's a really fine line in a compliment. I would say something like, "You look lovely," or during the conversation, if you find what they said funny, just say, "That was really funny." Or if you enjoyed the story, say, "That was a really good story. I enjoyed that." Little compliments like that. It'll automatically make them feel more relaxed, and it'll make them feel better about you. It'll create that connection. However, I do have a bit of a warning with compliments. Just be really, really careful on compliments. Absolutely, you can compliment somebody on a physical thing, like, "Your hair's lovely. I liked your shirt." I will give an example of what happened to me when I went speed dating one evening. Somebody came up to the table and they looked at me and went, "Oh, you're a Sex and the City girl." Now, I have no idea if that's a compliment or an insult, and I wouldn't use the word sex in your opening line.
No. Was it meant as a compliment? Did you ever find out?
I think he might have meant it as a compliment, but I sat there and it takes a lot for me to be nervous and uncomfortable. I can talk to anyone, and it made me feel really uncomfortable. I made a joke because I was just sitting with a can of Coca-Cola, and I was like, "Oh, I think I would have a cocktail then." Wishing I did at that point.
Yeah, that's a good time to down the whole thing and then pour it over his head, perhaps. That's a good time. People have to remember that the opening line is the one that's going to hook them in. It's going to turn them off, or it's going to make them attracted to you. And compliments are important, but many guys don't get compliments in life. Women get compliments all the time from women. "You look great, your dress looks amazing." Men don't generally get compliments. So if you compliment them on something like their jacket, or they've made an effort, or their hair looks really nice, or their aftershave is really good, that's going to work. That's going to be memorable. Well, I also think if you say something genuine that's heartfelt, that's a lot better than just making something up for the sake of it. Having said that, if you're having the same conversations over and over again with each person, then if something works, something gets a laugh, or something's really interesting, then say it to the next person. Remember what works. Don't repeat the conversations. I haven't really covered this enough. I think the topics of conversation are important when it comes to this. You only have 4 minutes to make them remember you. And a good tip when you're talking to them is don't sit opposite them. Sit to the side of them, sit next to them, and then they're going to feel more bonded towards you. And you can look around the room and you can talk about other people and discuss their experiences so far, and they're going to remember you. That doesn't really work if you're that attracted to them because there's no eye contact. But if you've already decided they're not the one for you, sit back, sit next to them, and just reflect on the evening. Ask them what their ambitions are in life, what they're passionate about, what they really, really want in life. Where was the last holiday that they had? Do something a bit different, because everyone asks the same boring questions, and by 10 dates, people are quite tired of this. And especially if they've had a break, it just seems like a longer evening. So Jade, what topics of conversation do you recommend?
I recommend Yes, absolutely. Ask what they do for a living. I think that just eases them. You know, people are really used to that question, yes, but at least it will kind of get the first bit out of the way. And it's really interesting how within what the other person might do, you'll find a connection or something to then take the conversation that way. I think what's important is things like holidays, maybe if you've had anything booked, if you've been anywhere recently. Some travel is so important for some people, and some people just don't like getting on a plane at all. You know, that might be something that's really important to you. Um, and I guess even just movies, or what if you're somebody who loves to go out in the city, if you're maybe like really into your food and cocktails, depending on where the venue is, have you been here before, have you tried that place down the street, and just find out if you have quite similar lifestyles in the same area.
Okay, yes, I agree with that. Your job as a single person at the events is to make sure the person you're talking to feels special, feels important, and actually feels the most important person in the room. If you can do that with every person, you're going to be remembered for the right reasons. So if you talk about things that they like talking about, don't just let them talk and ramble on, because after 4 minutes they've learned nothing about you whatsoever.
Yeah.
So try and keep it quite a balance of questions and answers, but make sure you're asking them things that they're passionate about and see what they talk about. If their eyes light up, and then make them feel good about what they do. And then they'll naturally be drawn to you and they're going to match with you and want to spend more time in your company. Now, Jade, what would you do if you go to an event and somebody you really like is there and you tick them, get all excited, and then the next day they don't tick you? What would you say to that person? Would you say give up? Would you say keep going? Would you say try and contact them on Facebook? What would you do?
I wouldn't try and contact them on Facebook or anything like that. If they've not ticked you, there could be 500 reasons, and you're not going to know. Unfortunately, you're not. And I know I'm really bad for it. I want to know why. You want to think, if I know why, then I can improve for the next time. But in that situation, you're not going to know why. You don't fully know what their situation is when they came into this. You don't know who else they spoke to, really. I would just go, well, what I did like about that person was that they worked in the area, they had the same schedule as me, or just think about what it was about that person that made you tick them, and keep that just in your frame of mind as in what you're looking for in a person, and just go back. And hey, that person might be at the next singles night as well, because that has happened before. I've seen people match after maybe like the third event or something, but um don't take it too personally.
That is fantastic advice and something I completely would agree with. You got no idea why that person didn't tick you. Maybe they decided they weren't going to tick anybody because they didn't want to get rejected. Maybe they weren't really single, they were just there for a bit of fun to support a friend. That happens a lot. Or maybe you just weren't their type. And does that really matter? No, good. You've saved yourself the trouble of actually getting to know them because you can focus on somebody else. You might go for an event and get no ticks. Now, don't get put off by that. It does happen sometimes to the best of people. Just remember, there's loads more events out there. There's probably, in normal times, there's probably one event every night somewhere you can go to. Whether it's a cookery night, whether it's learning a new skill or a new talk or a speed dating. So keep going. Don't just give up after going to one and say, I tried that, it didn't work. Enjoy the process and you'll have so much more fun moving ahead. Be open-minded. Now, with that in mind, I've got my 6 top tips for you all. So if you want to make speed dating and singles events work, my very first bit of advice to you is to try and take a friend the first time you go. Just one friend, as we said before, not a whole group of friends, just one friend. So you've got someone to report back to you, someone that can take you away from conversations that aren't working, someone that can introduce you. And I find taking a female friend, if you're male, can really work because they can start conversations with groups of females much easier than probably you can. And my second bit of advice to you is to act like you work there. If you pretend that you're the host of the party, then you can introduce people. You're not going to care about what they think about you. You go out there, you enjoy yourself, and you think you're the host. Welcome here. What brings you here? Get to know them. And that can really, really work. That's how we both got started. We both started hosting these things. And people love to talk to the hosts. The next thing, of course, is talk to everybody that you meet. Even if you're not attracted to them, talk to everybody and be open-minded. You never know who might be able to introduce you to somebody else. So don't just rule them out because you're not attracted to them. And as Jade said, it does take time sometimes to get to know somebody and whether you really are attracted to them or not. And you might see them again at a future party. and therefore you can go up to them straight away. How you doing? How did that go? And you've got someone you can go and talk to if you need to. And the fourth bit of advice, now we've touched upon this as well, is use the host. The hosts are there to help you. They're there to make you have an amazing time. Go up to them. They'll enjoy breaking up conversations with people that aren't working and introducing you. And they'll get a great sense of satisfaction if they make a match. So use them, and it makes their evening go quicker, and they'll enjoy it greatly. The next thing, of course, is to have the date there and then if you like them. I don't really agree in having to wait till the next day if you get a match or not. If they tick 5 people and they all match, then you've got 4 people going to be competing with the next day. So after you've done the speed dating, why not invite them for a drink there and then, or ask them if they're hungry and grab something to eat. Take them away from the competition. And if they like you, you've got a chance there and then to interact. And my last bit of advice is to keep trying different singles events and mix them up. Sometimes people will go to the same company over and over again and the same types of events, but your job is to keep varying them. If you go to different areas and try new things, you'll have so much more to talk about next time. So do keep going, but mix things up, because singles events and speed dating events can work, and you might just make lots of new friends. So Jade, any thoughts on those tips?
Yes, especially the last one. Do go for different companies and try different things. So try speed dating, try a singles event. You had mentioned, there might be like wine tasting, etc. If you find in a singles event like that, that's something that you are interested in, I think that's really important to go and find somebody with just that one common ground, because that's what's important in building a relationship, as a common ground. So if you get that one interest and then you can build on that, I would absolutely advise that you go.
Thank you, Jade. Jade, if somebody wants to reach you and find out more about your own events that you're going to be running, hopefully in the very, very near future, how can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. So there's 2 different pages. My events are called Urban Encounters. So it's on Instagram, it's Urban Encounters Dating, and that's our Facebook page as well. Or you can contact me via my blog, which is jadeddating.wordpress.
Brilliant. So everyone, please go, if you're in the Glasgow area or nearby, do check out Jade's event as soon as they are ready to go. I can trust that you're going to be in fantastic hands and she'll look after you. And do use her. Do make sure that she works for you and introduces you to all the people that you want to meet. I know she'll love to do that, because we all want to help people and to match them with the right people. So thank you very much for joining me, Jade.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Your absolute pleasure. Hopefully I'll have you on again soon. And thank you everybody for listening, and I'll speak to you next time. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.